You know the sound. You're in the next room and you hear it start. That hacking, straining, on and on effort. And you're already up and moving before it finishes, because you know how this ends, and you know which rug it's going to end on. And somewhere along the way, you stopped worrying about it. Cats get hairballs. That's just what they do. Everyone says so. Here's what nobody tells you. Swallowing fur is completely normal. Vomiting it back up is not. In a healthy cat, that fur is supposed to travel all the way through and come out in the litter box, and you're never meant to see it or hear it at all. Which means if your cat is doing this weekly, something upstream isn't working, and it almost certainly isn't the amount of fur. Hi everyone, I'm Leo Bennett, your neighborhood cat guy. Today I'm going to show you what's actually going wrong inside your cat when hairballs keep coming. And then I'm going to give you 3 natural things you can add to her food to fix it. No medication, no prescription diet, no paste from a tube. 2 of them are already in most kitchens, and one of them costs about $2. Small thing before we carry on. This is one chapter of a much bigger conversation about what your cat is trying to tell you, and I've gathered all of it into a book called The Happy Cat Manual over at leobennettsecrets.com. Go take a look if you want more happy years with your cat. That's all. So let's start with what a hairball actually is, because almost nobody explains this part properly. Your cat's tongue is covered in tiny backward-facing hooks called papillae. Every time she grooms, those hooks catch loose fur and drag it straight into her mouth, and it gets swallowed. That's not a design flaw. That's how a cat cleans herself, and they've done it for thousands of years. Long-haired cats swallow more of it, which is why they produce more hairballs. But the swallowing itself is normal in every cat. And in a gut that's working properly, that fur simply passes through the intestines and comes out mixed into the stool, completely unnoticed. So here's the question nobody asks. If swallowing fur is normal and it's meant to pass straight through, why is your cat bringing it back up instead? The answer isn't how much hair she's swallowing, it's how fast her gut is moving. Picture your cat's digestive tract as a conveyor belt. When that belt is moving at a healthy pace, anything that lands on it, food, fur, whatever, gets carried smoothly along and out. Now slow that belt down, even slightly. Things start to pile up. Fur that would have sailed straight through sits still long enough to bind together with more fur, with mucus, with whatever else is in the stomach at the time. And once it clumps into a dense enough mass, it's too big and too compact to carry on down the belt at all. At that point, your cat's body has exactly one option left. Send it back the way it came. That's why the sound is what it is. It isn't a quick heave, it's work. Because by the time that mass starts moving, it's compacted and dense, and it has to be pushed all the way up from the stomach along the esophagus. That's the hacking, and that's why you stand there for a full minute wondering whether anything is going to happen. And this explains something owners find genuinely baffling. 2 cats can groom exactly the same amount, and one produces a hairball every week, while the other never produces one in her life. It was never about the fur. It's about how efficiently that fur is being moved. So what drives gut motility in cats? 2 things, and almost nothing on the hairball shelf properly addresses either one: fiber and hydration. Let's take fiber first, because this is the one that does the heavy lifting. Insoluble fiber works like a broom inside the intestines. As it moves through, it adds bulk and texture, and that bulk pushes against the intestinal walls. Those walls respond by contracting in a rhythmic wave, and that wave is what shifts everything toward the exit: food, waste, and fur. Take the fiber away, and those contractions get weak and inconsistent. Material moves sluggishly, and fur sitting in that sluggish environment has all the time in the world to bind into a mass. Now here's the part that makes it click. Think about what a cat eats in the wild. Not a bit of trimmed muscle meat. A whole mouse, or a whole bird. Bones, fur, feathers, and whatever was in that animal's stomach. That's a genuinely high-fiber meal, and any fur she swallowed while grooming gets carried through in the middle of it. Now look at a bowl of ordinary kibble. Almost none of that. Which brings us to hydration, and this matters just as much. Water is what keeps everything moving through the intestines soft and slick. A dehydrated gut produces drier, harder waste that moves more slowly. and that hands the fur even more time to bind together instead of sliding through. And here's where an enormous number of owners are working against themselves without knowing it. Most cats today eat almost entirely dry food. Dry food contains roughly 10% moisture. A cat's natural prey-based diet is 70 to 75% moisture. So a cat living on kibble is functionally in a state of mild chronic dehydration every single day of her life. And you'd never spot it. She drinks from her bowl, she looks completely fine. There's a reason for that. Cats evolved from desert-dwelling ancestors, and as a result, they have a notoriously weak thirst drive. A lot of cats simply won't drink enough from a standing bowl to make up the deficit, however often you refill it. They aren't being difficult. The instinct just isn't strong in them. So here's the full cycle. Low fiber and low hydration slow the belt down. The slow belt lets swallowed fur sit and clump. The clump grows too large to pass, and the body sends it back up because there's nothing else it can do. Right, let's fix it. 3 things you add to her food, and none of them is medicine. The first, and the most effective, is plain canned pumpkin. And I need to be very specific because getting this wrong is genuinely dangerous. You want 100% pure pumpkin puree with nothing else in it, not pumpkin pie filling. Pie filling contains added sugar and very often nutmeg. Nutmeg is toxic to cats, even in small quantities. And those 2 tins sit right next to each other with almost identical packaging. So turn it over and read the ingredients every single time you buy it, not just the first. Now, why pumpkin works so well. It's an outstanding source of both soluble and insoluble fiber, and it carries a naturally high water content. So it hits both halves of the problem, motility and hydration, in a single spoonful. The dose is 1 teaspoon mixed into her food once a day for an adult cat under 10 pounds, and up to a tablespoon daily for a bigger cat over 12 pounds. And here's where most people go wrong. They assume more must be better, so they put in a huge spoonful on day 1. What actually happens is that you overwhelm the gut in the opposite direction. You get loose stool and diarrhea, which increases fluid loss, which leaves your cat just as dehydrated as she was before you started. You've swung the pendulum instead of fixing the balance. So start at half the recommended amount for the first 3 days and let her system adjust before working up to the full dose. Slower is genuinely faster here. Mix it straight into wet food if she eats any. But if your cat is exclusively a dry food eater, this next bit matters more than almost anything else in the video, because it's your opportunity to get moisture into her at the same time. Mix the teaspoon of pumpkin with a small splash of water or plain unsalted bone broth, a tablespoon or 2, and either pour it over the kibble or offer it in a small dish alongside the meal. That single change starts correcting the chronic dehydration that dry food creates. And it works, because most cats find broth genuinely appealing. You're not tricking her into anything, she's choosing it. The second addition is ground flax. Flax is a good source of soluble fiber, and it works slightly differently to pumpkin. Soluble fiber draws water into the intestine, which expands the material moving through and helps carry things along with it, including fur that would otherwise sit still. One critical detail: it has to be ground. Ground flax absorbs water and forms that gel. Whole seeds are just roughage passing through. So you want flaxseed meal, not seeds. 1/4 teaspoon, twice a day, mixed into wet food. And if she's fussy about it, mix it with a little water first into a slurry. And the third one is the one most people have never heard of: shredded coconut. Plain, unsweetened, shredded coconut. Same principle. Coconut is very high in fiber once shredded, so it's another way to bulk up what's moving through and carry the fur along with it. 1/2 teaspoon, twice a day. And here's the genuinely useful part. A surprising number of cats will eat it straight off the spoon. No mixing, no hiding it in anything. Some get quite enthusiastic about it. A bag costs a couple of dollars and lasts an age. Now, add these slowly rather than all at once. Start with pumpkin, since it does the most. Give it a week, then layer the others in. Adding 3 new things on the same day is a good way to cause the digestive upset you were trying to prevent, and you'd have no idea which one did it. And while all this is going on, deal with hydration directly. A pet water fountain helps considerably, because moving, aerated water mimics the flowing streams their instincts are drawn toward, and most cats drink noticeably more from one than from a still bowl. If a fountain isn't practical, adding a splash of water into every single meal, wet or dry, gets you most of the way there. Now, brushing. It still matters, but not for the reason most people think, and the technique isn't what they assume either. Brushing doesn't fix the gut. It reduces the loose fur available to be swallowed in the first place, which matters most during shedding season, spring and autumn for most cats. Use a stainless steel comb rather than a slicker brush for the undercoat, working in the direction of hair growth in short, gentle strokes. And 2 or 3 short sessions a week of about 5 minutes beats one long session every time, because a long, stressful brush leaves a cat irritated enough that she goes off and over-grooms afterward. And over-grooming is worth watching for on its own. A cat who's anxious, bored, or dealing with a skin allergy swallows several times the normal volume of fur, simply because she's grooming several times as much. What you're looking for is compulsive, repetitive licking in the same 1 or 2 spots until the fur thins or disappears. If you see that, the fiber still helps, but it won't fully solve things until whatever's driving it gets dealt with. So, here's the plan. First, go and look at the litter box. If the stool is noticeably dry, hard, or pellet-like, rather than well-formed and moist, that's your confirmation that fiber and hydration need correcting. That one check tells you more than any product label will. Second, start pumpkin today. Half a teaspoon for 3 days, working up to a full teaspoon, mixed with a splash of water or broth if she's on dry food. Third, add ground flax or shredded coconut after the first week if you want to build on it. Fourth, deal with water directly. A fountain or water added to every meal, or both. Fifth, brush 2 or 3 times a week during shedding season. And sixth, give it 4 to 6 weeks before you judge whether it's working. Stool consistency should visibly improve within 2 to 3 weeks. Gut motility changes gradually, not overnight. Now, the one thing I genuinely need you to hear before I let you go. There's a point where this stops being something you manage at home. If your cat is straining repeatedly to bring something up and nothing comes at all, if she goes lethargic, if she stops eating, or if you feel a hard, painful swelling in her abdomen, those can indicate an intestinal blockage, which is a genuine emergency and needs a vet immediately, not a spoonful of pumpkin. And for context on what's normal, an occasional hairball is one thing. Weekly or more often is your cat telling you something upstream needs correcting. And now you know what that something is. A cat who's constantly bringing up hairballs isn't simply a cat with a lot of fur. She's a cat whose gut isn't moving the way it's supposed to. And that is something you have direct, immediate power to change, with a tin of pumpkin and a bit of consistency. Fix the conveyor belt and the fur takes care of itself, exactly the way it was always designed to. So tell me in the comments, how often is your cat bringing up hairballs at the moment? And have you tried pumpkin before? I'd genuinely like to know how many of you have been fighting this weekly and were told it was just something cats do. Hit like, subscribe, and send this to someone who's on their 4th carpet clean this month. I'm Leo Bennett, and go and check that litter box tonight. It'll tell you exactly where to start.